Hey guys, I'm Natalia, the founder of Upskill Me, and I work with a lot of non-native speakers who need to sell in the English language, deliver their ideas to the world in English, and do a lot of presentations in the English language. In today's video, I want to help all those people who need to deliver presentations in the English language to the world that speaks English, to the business world that speaks English. I want to help them with some practical advice. I have been teaching public speaking for non-native speakers since 2016 now, and I would like to share 7 things that people usually do wrong. So we'll go through each of them and hopefully you'll learn something new to improve your presentations. Thing number 1, or mistake number 1, is when you try to translate the slides from your first language. The problem is not that people translate every word of their presentation, which I never advise to do either, but you know what happens when people decide to make this career move, or when people decide that they're ready to deliver presentations in the English language. What happens is that they think they're ready because they have explained this idea in their first language a million times. Let's say if my first language is Russian and I have spoken about the topic a lot in the Russian language. Let's say I've been selling some piece of software or financial products or anything else. I've done it a lot in my first language. People listen, people buy. People give me a round of applause when I deliver my ideas. I am invited to international conferences where I speak my first language and I deliver my ideas in my first language. And now, am I ready to deliver the same idea in English? This is the catch and this is the trap for so many people. They think that if they've done it a million times in their first language, they can easily do it in their second language, in English. But it requires a lot of preparation, different type of preparation. We're going to talk about it in the second point. But here, I want to bring your attention to the fact that if you simply and merely translate the slides from your first language to English, it will probably not make a lot of sense to those audiences who think in English and whose first language is English. It is easy to do, I get it. You simply go slide by slide as you normally go when you translate it and you deliver the same idea on every slide. But unfortunately, if your job is to deliver a presentation or to explain an idea to the audience that thinks in a different language, that comes from a different cultural background, you cannot do that and the presentation will fail. I've seen this so many times. First of all, you can't always translate what is on your slide exactly as it is. You will have to change some wording, you will have to change the visuals, you will have to maybe even change the whole structure and the logic of your presentation so that people get what it is that you're trying to say. So do not translate your slides. It's a lot better to come up with a new structure of a presentation, taking into account the way that these people think, the way that these people are ready to receive your message. It will save you so much time, so much effort, and people are going to get it a lot faster. So do not translate your slides. You will probably find that you can reduce the number of slides, or you will have to add a few more slides to explain exactly what every idea means. And maybe you will have to have way fewer words on your slides. We all know it and we all have seen those presentations. I mean, those slides which are packed with words and people feel like they have to read all the words that they see on the slide. And you just have to understand that as soon as people start reading what's behind you on a slide, they stop listening to you, and you don't want this. And if you struggle explaining something in your second language so that people listen, you do not want to bring people's attention to whatever is on your slide. And it doesn't really matter that much if you're giving an in-person presentation or if you're doing an online presentation. When people are busy reading the slides, they're not busy listening to you. And when you explain a compelling idea in your second language and you need people to listen, you need people to listen to you and you need all their attention. So don't make this mistake by making people read through something they do not understand in the first place. They're trying to figure out what it is that means, and they're probably also trying to connect how whatever you are saying is actually connected to what they see on your slide, because there might be mistakes on your slides. It just culturally and language-wise may not make a lot of sense to them, because they come from a different cultural background and because they think differently and because they speak a different language. If you simply translated everything right, okay, what they will see is a good translation, but it does not necessarily mean that they will see what you want them to see and what you mean to tell them. Do not translate your slides. Instead, focus on the people and make sure that they listen to you and only use the slides as a supportive visual. The fewer slides you have, the better. If you absolutely need the slides, have someone who speaks English very well do the slides and be involved in the process, because you're doing it for the people who will be listening to you. So most likely you know your audience, most likely you know how they receive information, and most likely you also know how they think and how they feel. Usually preparing slides is considered to be a very not significant task, and business assistants or simply assistant teams do the slides for those people who present. I mean, you can delegate this part of the work, but you have to know what's on your slides yourself. You want to be responsible for what is there and what people will be looking at when they listen to your presentation. Very often you will also find that if you write the message on your slide, a new message, in English, instead of translating the message from Russian, let's say, to English, people will get it a lot faster and people will appreciate your message a lot more, and it will be a lot easier for you to deliver the presentation. So that is thing number one. So the second mistake that I see a lot, and I've already touched upon it a little bit, is that people do not believe in preparation and they don't do enough preparation. So little preparation. I'm gonna write it here and I'm going to explain. What do I mean by little preparation? As I said before, when I was explaining point number one, when people have done this presentation many times, they believe they can do it. They believe they can do it in English, in Spanish, in Chinese. They just need to improve their language skills. But that is not really the case. So if in your first language, it's enough for you to show up in front of people and the energy just flows and you can talk about anything without preparation. You can be spontaneous, you can tell a joke, you can read the people in the room, you can let your charisma shine through. If this is easy for you to do in your first language, it does not mean that the same things will happen when you switch to English. Because I've seen this so many times, brilliant, charismatic speakers who know how to deliver presentations in their first language, show up in front of people, and all of a sudden they're silent and all their charisma is gone and they don't know what to say because they're struggling either translating words in their head or they're not sure how to connect one idea to another, or they forgot the word, or they forgot where they were going or what they were supposed to say. Or they can't read the feedback, or they can read the feedback too well and they see that people are not getting what they're trying to deliver, or they can't answer the questions spontaneously, or they can't understand the question. There can be so many things going on when you present in your second language, and you gotta prepare. It's an amazing skill to be spontaneous. And you want to learn to be spontaneous. You want to learn to read the room, to own the room, to tell jokes, to interact with the audience. When I do my public speaking course, I give all participants these notebooks. These are my notebooks from my brand, and I make sure that they're just cool notebooks so people can take notes during the course. But here is what it says here on the cover. It says, well, first of all speaking is public speaking, whether it is to one person or 1,000. I believe in it with all my heart. And it also says here that you only get spontaneous after you have rehearsed enough. So if you hope to get spontaneous just because you already know how to be spontaneous in your first language, this does not work. You have to learn to be spontaneous in your second language, and you want to invest your time in preparation. If you ask me how to achieve that, how to learn to be spontaneous, I'm going to reply that it takes practice. Not the most interesting answer, probably the most boring answer, but my point is that the mistake that people make so often and so many times is that they go in without any preparation because they believe they don't need any, but they actually do. Speaking in a second language is a skill. And if you have never practiced it, or if you have practiced it not enough, everything you're afraid of is actually going to happen as soon as you start speaking or presenting your ideas. So you want to practice, and you want to invest enough time in practicing your ability to communicate your ideas easily, spontaneously, and in such a way that people listen. So let's talk about mistake number 3. The next mistake that people make when they present in their second language, when they deliver presentations in English, is that they never time themselves. This is why I'm gonna write it down here. Time yourself. Do time yourself. People have no idea how long it takes them to explain their ideas in the English language. They think they have been talking for a couple of minutes only, maybe. But in fact, they have been speaking for 10 minutes already, and they still haven't made it clear to people what it is that they want to explain, or what it is that they're selling, or why whatever they're selling is worth buying. Time yourself. And again, even if you are a very eloquent and experienced speaker in your first language, if you present a lot in your first language and you know how to do it, you want to build enough positive experience presenting in your second language. That is so important. This is why if you can sense time and if you can feel the time very well when you speak in your first language, train or start training the same skill when you speak English. It's very simple. So what do you do here? You time yourself. Well, of course, we already spoke about this. Most people think it's no use investing their time in preparation. Many people think, I've done it so many times, I can just go in and do it and nail it and own the room. No. You want to do this, you want to run your entire presentation, you want to do a dry run of your entire presentation actually, and you want to do this, and you want to time yourself just to see how long it takes. You will be surprised. Most people will be surprised because, as I said, people have no clue how long it's taking them to explain their ideas. If you know that you only have 15 minutes to present your idea, or if your time slot is 20 minutes only, maybe you're giving a keynote speech, or maybe it's a Zoom call with a client and you have scheduled half an hour, you want to know how long it's going to be taking you to explain the advantages of your product, or to explain to a new person what your product is even about, or what your services are all about. So time yourself. Maybe I'm going to say something you don't expect to hear at all, but I'm going to say it because in my experience, that's helped me a lot. The next mistake that I see people make is they take questions at the end of their talk. Take questions at the end. I do not like to do that, and I never advise people to do the same, because a presentation to me is a conversation with people. I am there to talk to people. I am there to interact with people. I'm not there to give a prepared monologue so that they sit there for 30 minutes and listen to me and ask questions at the end. So I don't tell them, save all your questions for the end of my talk, meaning do not interrupt me as I talk. You don't really want to send that message to people. Don't interrupt me because I might forget what I wanted to say, and if I do forget what I wanted to say, then I will be blaming you. You don't really want to send that message. If you want to be a relaxed speaker, if you want to send this message that you're actually ready to talk, you're ready for a conversation, you don't want to be in this tense, rigid state where you are afraid to go right or left. You're afraid to forget what your next step was, or what your next move was, or what your next slide was. You want to learn to be spontaneous. We spoke about it already, right? You want to learn to interact with people. So if you do send this message, well, I get it. So different presentations are done for different purposes. Sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes you do want people to think about their questions first before they ask them. You do want them to send their questions in the written form, maybe. But not all presentations require that, and not all presentations even allow for that. So if you do have a chance to turn your presentation around and rather have a conversation with people, do it. Try it out. I usually encourage people to ask questions as I speak, because I want to understand if they understand. So if I see question marks in their eyes right now, it's better for me to stop and to ask them what's going on, and to ask them if they have a question that they would like to ask. And this is the biggest and the most important sign of trust for me, if they actually ask that question. Because we have seen those presentations so many times when we invite people to ask questions, and what do? Nothing. They say no questions. They sit there like this, their arms folded. They nod as if they understand. They don't have any questions. And you get to understand only after the presentation, long after the presentation, that somebody didn't get something, that your presentation didn't make any sense, and that people just didn't feel you were cool enough, or they could trust you to ask the question that they had in their mind, or that people felt that they would feel stupid if they asked the question. You want to avoid that. A presentation is your opportunity to build rapport with people, so encourage questions, because this way you will be encouraging a conversation, and you might arrive at something meaningful together during the presentation. But again, it takes guts to do that. A lot of people, a lot of speakers want to stick to their slides, want to stick to their presentation. They are afraid of hearing unexpected questions. And you want to practice that. You want to practice this ability to switch between questions very easily, and to always know that you always will find the words to say. The words will come. Most people are so afraid to lose them. Do not. And time yourself to practice this ability to be more spontaneous and to be more relaxed. And invite people to be a part of your presentation. Now let's move on. Mistake number 5 that a lot of non-native speakers make when they prepare for their presentations in the English language. What they do, well, they want to do well during the presentation. They want to do their best, and they learn every word of their presentation by heart. So learn every word off the talk. Learn it by heart. I'm going to write it this way. Well, actually, do not learn it by heart. You see, the danger of learning every word of your talk is that in case you forget one word, everything you can think of is what's the next word. You forgot the next word. You will be thinking about it only, while you need to be thinking about the people listening to your talk. You need to keep in mind the structure of your presentation, the bigger picture of your presentation, and the people. Why are you here? What did you even want to say? I never do that myself unless I need to time myself, and unless I know that I only have 5 minutes on stage, and then I'll just have to go. And they will not allow me to say another word. Let's say if it's a competition, if it's a pitching competition, and every participant is very limited in time, then I will probably write down every word of my presentation. At least that's what I did when I took part in pitching competitions, because I wanted to make sure that I am on time. In my head and in my world, I might be thinking that I've said nothing, it's been just 3 minutes. But I would be surprised every time, again and again, because I would get to realize that it wasn't 3 minutes, it was 15. So I had to learn to feel the time, and I had to learn to understand how long it takes me to explain my ideas. But if we talk about business, if we talk about sales presentations, if we talk about presentations where you need to get somebody's approval of your idea, or where you need to explain what you think to the team, or when you need to explain the new structure to the client, maybe the new fee structure to the client, or the new corporate structure to your team. It can be whatever. Or maybe you need to present the best practices of your company or your marketing efforts at a conference. Why not? Whatever you have to present, I do not recommend that you learn every word of your presentation, because first of all, you will feel uneasy and you will feel bad. In case you forget one word, you will feel that you're stuck. And you will need somebody to do something to get you unstuck, or at least it's going to take some time that you probably do not want to lose in your presentation. And then if something like this damages your inner state and you don't have enough experience getting out of this or balancing, managing your inner state, then you might just lose time during your presentation, and that will not be very helpful. What I like to do usually is I like writing down the beginning and the ending of my talk, because I don't want to be in this position right at the beginning of my speech where I don't know what to say and I'm not sure how I want to begin. This is why I think of a good start of my presentation, and I also think of how I want to finish it. I want to finish strong, and I want to give people something to think about or something to remember after I'm done talking. So these moments I write down on paper with my pen. Usually it's 2 or 3 sentences only, and this is what I learned by heart. I learned the 2 opening and the 2 closing sentences of my presentation by heart, so that when it's time to begin, I feel very confident because I know exactly what I want to say. And I've practiced saying it out loud enough times so that it feels good to say it and I feel confident saying it. And then what I like to do with the body of my presentation, I like to bullet point my presentation so that I can visualize the structure of my talk. And it is very, very important that your bullet points are sentences, not words, not phrases, not sentence fragments. They are real sentences. Maybe I should have added this actually to my list because it's not in there, but we always practice that. We always practice structure and presentations when we practice public speaking together during the course. When I bullet point my ideas, so what do I mean when I say there are sentences? A lot of people, when they make a list of ideas, their bullet points sound like this: summer dress, Blue Lagoon, $500. It is not helping you to deliver a beautiful presentation in the English language. Yes, this will help you remember what it is that you wanted to say. But most non-native speakers need a different kind of help when they deliver their ideas in the English language. They don't need help with remembering what they wanted to say. They need help with saying it in beautiful, correct English. Because they're most concerned about that. They're concerned that they will mess up with their verbs, that they will forget the right tense, that they will use the wrong preposition, that they will not make themselves clear, that their pronunciation is not good enough, or their accent is too heavy, or that they translated the slides wrong, or they will just not be able to explain the value of their ideas to their native speaking clients. This is what they worry about. But when they structure their talk, when they do the bullet points, they're not helping themselves to solve those problems. They do what they usually do when they prepare presentations in their first language, and they have done this in their first language so many times. They believe they know how to do it, and they do it just the same way. And my point is exactly that. You need to do things differently here because you're doing a different thing. It's a different type of experience. So when you do write down your bullet points, make sure that every bullet point is helping you to do that presentation better. So make sure that when you do write your bullet points, they sound like sentences, not like phrases or sentence fragments. Now let me give you an example. If your bullet point sounds like this: $500 or $5,000, you might get an idea of what you need to say next, but it doesn't really help you say it. You don't know how to say it, or you will not remember how to say it in correct English if you look at a bullet point like this one. But what if your bullet point sounds like this? We have changed the value of the product by $5,000, or we have increased the value of the product by $5,000, or we have brought in $5,000 of additional value. Look at this bullet point, take it, and use it. So that's the point. If I want to help myself deliver a better presentation in the English language, I will learn the beginning, I will learn the end of my talk, and I will craft bullet points that I can actually say and use in my presentation. It's not something that I will use to just remember roughly what I wanted to say, but I will actually take the sentence, I will use it, and it will help me not only remember what I wanted to say next, but it will help me start this idea. So think about your presentation as a text. If this is a text, you will see, if you visualize it, that it will probably be broken down into paragraphs. Your talk is a set of paragraphs. So your bullet point sentence is the opening sentence of every new paragraph. Think about it this way. Usually, an opening sentence of a new paragraph is supposed to explain what the paragraph is about, so that when you say it, it's clear not only to you what this paragraph is about, but to everyone who is listening. And then it's so much easier to continue talking about this paragraph or about what's in this paragraph, because you've already said the most important thing. So this is the kind of work that you want to be doing when you structure your presentations in the second language, because it's tough to come up with such ideas on the spot. And you want such ideas to be concise, to the point. You don't want any unnecessary words there. You don't want them to be wordy, right? You want them to be very clear. And it takes time and preparation to come up with ideas like this. So use your time to write them down before you actually stand there to present your ideas in front of people. So number 6 is easy, and I have just given you a hint. The next mistake is if you never write anything down. Good presentation skills start with the writing skills. If you have never written anything down, we cannot be talking about a successful presentation, about a clear presentation, and about a well-structured, logical presentation. You want to know how to write down your ideas, because when you do sit down to write your ideas, you're giving yourself a chance to structure your thought process. If you have never seen what your thought process looks like on paper, when you try to formulate your thoughts in the English language, then you can't even imagine what other people hear and what message other people can be receiving when you speak English. It's important that you, in the first place, get to see the way you think, because what you will write down is how you think. And what you will see written down is actually how you talk. If you have never seen that, if this information is new to you, then again, you probably have no idea how people hear you when you talk and what message people might be receiving when you talk. So what can you write down? What does this exercise entail? I already touched upon it here when we spoke about structuring your presentation. So if you do want to practice writing and improving your presentations in the English language, you want to write down the bullet points, the structure of the body of your presentation. So listen to number 5 one more time in case you missed that. And you want to write the beginning and the end of your talk so that it sounds compelling, interesting, to the point, intriguing, concise, and powerful. Write it down. Believe me, everybody thinks that they can do it spontaneously. They can just be there, stand there in front of people, the right words will come and they will say something magical and something striking, and people will just love them and their words. No, it takes work and it takes a lot of practice. So if you hope to just show up and say the right thing the first time you do it, you're wrong. You will say something. I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to be bad, but it's probably not going to be what you expect from yourself. In order to go there and know that you can do a very good presentation means you have to be confident that you can do it. And you are only confident you can do it when you've done it many, many times. Apart from writing down the beginning and the end of your talk and structuring your bullet points, you can also write down one big idea of your presentation. What does that mean? What do you want people to think about after you have finished talking? What do you want them to remember? What is this one sentence that they will be talking about or they will be thinking about? What idea do you want to stick with them? This is your one big idea. So practice writing it down. And it's important to see the difference between the title of your presentation and the one big idea. One big idea communicates the essence, the gist of your presentation, what it is even about, if you say it in very few words. But the title can sound like this, and many people confuse the two. How to deliver a good presentation. That's a title. Maybe a title of a talk, or maybe a title of a blog post, or how to increase sales in 2 months. That's a title for a blog post, but that doesn't explain to us what the presentation is about. One big idea does not ask questions. It does not pose questions. It answers the questions. So when you say how to be confident, this is not the main idea of the presentation. That sounds like a blog post title. But if you say something like, we have identified a new strategy to double our sales in the next quarter. Okay, that's interesting. Give me more. Tell me how exactly you're going to do that. That is the answer to the question. That is the main idea of my presentation or of your presentation, and I want to listen to the rest. I want to listen to it. I want to know how, what's the strategy? Or if I say that learning to manage your inner state is way more important than learning the text of your presentation. That is my one big idea. This is the gist, the essence of my message. I'm not asking the question here, I'm answering the question. Practice writing it down. Practice fitting your one big idea in as few words as possible. Practice communicating loads of meaning in very few words. To do this, you need to write. If you have never written it down, there's no way you can do it on the spot, especially in the second language. And let's talk about one more mistake. It's the final one on my list, but my list is not the exhausting list. Number 7, at least this is what I see a lot, and this is what I want to bring your attention to, so that if you need to deliver presentations in the English language, you avoid making those mistakes and you know the exercises to combat them, or the exercises that you can do to help yourself build new neural pathways and new positive experience. Number 7 is inner state. The mistake is that people do not invest their time in learning to manage their inner state. They learn the text of their presentation. They want to learn better English, even though their English skills are already very strong and very good. But they spend more time improving their pronunciation, learning new words, learning new grammar, and they absolutely do not put any effort in managing their inner state. But that is the most important thing when you present, especially when you present in a second language. Because look, it's a fact. Everyone is anxious. Everyone is nervous when they have to present, even in their first language. But if you need to communicate with clarity, if you need to deliver powerful ideas in your second language, you know, if you already are doing this, you know how much work it takes and you know how much time and effort it requires. It's not about words, it's not about grammar. Yes, it is about practicing the language, but it is mostly and most importantly about you. You are the message when you talk. Your inner state will define how people will feel around you if you present to them in one room. And even if you present online, your inner state defines how people feel about watching your video, if they're watching an online presentation, if they're watching a video presentation. Your inner state defines if people want and feel like working with you. And your charisma is not what you think about yourself. It's not about radiating confidence. It's not about that. Charisma is how other people feel when you're around. How do they feel in your presence? Or how do they feel when they listen to you? Most people do not ask themselves this question. They only care about delivering a beautiful presentation. They only care about saying the right thing. But what we really want to care about is, are we actually understood? Is our message received on the other end? And do people get what it is that we're saying? Managing your inner state means you want to practice that inner confidence. I share a lot of exercises with people who take my public speaking course and who take the listening course and everybody who works with me. It's not something that I can teach you in a video, but I feel that I need to bring up the importance of this issue. Inner confidence can be built and it should be built. It's not something that happens to you. It's not something that miraculously happens. It's something that you are responsible for. You have to build it. And confidence always comes from competence. So you want to know that if you have done something many, many times, you can do it again, no problem, anytime, in any conditions. And this is what gives you confidence. So there are a lot of exercises to make sure that your energy is stable. It's not all over the place. And I'm not talking about meditation practices, because meditation practices usually, well, at least the way people use them to relax and to expand their consciousness. God knows where. They don't really know what they're doing. They just want to relax and forget about all the negative emotions, or they want to suppress the negative emotions. They want to suppress their anxiety and pretend they're not anxious. This is not what I mean when I say you gotta work on your inner state. When you work on your inner state, everything becomes one. The way you feel on a physical level, the way your energy flows, your energy is stable, it's not all over the place, you are not all over the place. The right words always come. You don't need to learn every word of your text. You don't need to worry that you will forget the next important thing to say. You don't need to worry that you don't know how to connect the ideas in your big presentation. You know, and you're very certain that the words will come. I always trust this. I never write down every word of my presentation, especially when I do a YouTube video or when I speak to people, because I know that the words will come. I know what I want to say. I know what message I want to deliver, and the right words will always come if I am in the right state. But you have to think about combining many things. Your physical state, your mental state, your energy, everything becomes one because you are one. And only from that state we can talk about delivering good and confident presentations. If you're trying to hide from people the way you really feel, it's not gonna work. Everybody's gonna feel and everybody's gonna see how you really feel. We all know this feeling when kind of you feel like you can tick all the boxes and the person is saying all the right things, but the whole message just feels like you don't really know. Feels either flaky or just off, or you're not really sure what is wrong, but you feel that something is wrong. People can feel so many things. They cannot always articulate what it is that they're feeling and why they're feeling this way, but they always feel a lot of things. And this is what we want to learn to do too. To learn how we make other people feel when we talk, to learn what we feel and what to name those things. And we want to learn to understand people so that we can deliver ideas to them in their language. And we can do it only from a very confident and balanced inner state. I hope it makes sense. I hope you will deliver amazing presentations in the English language and you will avoid making all those mistakes. And hopefully you have learned something from this video. If you got an insight into some idea after watching this video, or maybe if you have more tips to share with those people who present a lot in their second language, please share your ideas in the comments below this video and let's talk about it, because if there is a way to help one another deliver better presentations in English, let's use the opportunity to talk.